Hey everybody, this is PRJ since 1990. Recently I've had some excellent success breeding bronze Corydoras, and before we actually had success with them, we were having a lot of issues, my wife and I, between a lot of misleading information on the internet and just too many opinions floating around to really try to hone in on what works, because everybody has a little bit a different setup, a little bit different water parameters, all that stuff. So for an amateur fish keeper like myself, I've figured out a couple little things, little tips and tricks. I just wanted to share them with you in hopes that if you happen to have bronze Corys and you want them to breed, or they have bred, hopefully you can raise the eggs successfully. A bit of a disclaimer, this is again what just worked for me, so if it doesn't work for you, or it does work for you, or you've got other ways that you go about trying to raise eggs, then that's perfectly alright. Please don't be upset if you have a different way of doing it, or you follow my advice to a T and it doesn't work out for you. You have to take into consideration all things. Alright, so to get bronze Corys to breed, not very difficult at all. They are basically the rabbits of the Corydoras species. From everything I've read, it's basically the easiest species of Corys to get to breed. How you go about doing that? Super easy. Give them frozen foods. I would recommend bloodworms. This is what I've got, and it has worked out every single time. A little bit of a water change with slightly cooler water than what the temperature is set at in your tank. Should be maybe somewhere in the mid-70s. Change the water with a little bit cooler water and feed them high-protein food for a day. The Hikari bloodworm cubes, the frozen cubes, are what we use, and all it took was just one, and they were literally chasing each other around the tank for a very long time. And what happens is the males will chase the females, and they will end up in like this T position. And I'm not exactly sure all the ins and outs of how this works, but basically the male goes into a T position with the female. Female is there sitting on the substrate as the male swims away. Female sits there for a little bit, breathing heavily, and then she'll get up and she'll start swimming around. She'll be swimming for looking for flat surfaces. You'll find this on the glass of the aquarium or on leaves of plants if you have live plants, and sometimes flat surfaces on decorations and such. And then she will rub up against them and deposit the eggs. And what happens is the eggs have like a sticky substance on them, so they stick to whatever she lays them on, and ends up laying about maybe 10 to 20 eggs, maybe more, in a single little clutch of them wherever she lays them. And they tend to lay them on the brightest spots in the tank. Now obviously it's different when you're looking in compared to them looking out. Alright, so next step would be harvesting the eggs. I tried multiple times using the credit card method and the metal scraper method to try to carefully scrape the eggs off the glass, and every time I just had a bunch of them pop and had a lot of them just kind of drift away because of the water flow. So my advice would be just use your hand. Simply reach in and roll the eggs off using your finger, either index or middle finger, whatever you're comfortable with, and they're going to stick to your finger. Then you can just easily take them out of the water and then just put them into a little plastic cup or container. So it's really important to do this quickly, but not too quickly. Let the eggs sit and harden for a little bit, because otherwise they're going to be so squishy and so sticky that any pressure will actually cause them to rupture. If you happen to have a community tank where this happened like we did, it's pretty critical to get them out before any of the other fish notice that there's fresh eggs laid and they can swim up and get a quick omelet. Anything from tetras and gouramis to plecos will eat them if you leave them alone. So if you're actually trying not to have a bunch of babies, sometimes that can actually be to your advantage. But overall suggestion, use your hands and just put them in a little cup to transfer them to the fry tank. For the fry tank, very basic setup, just a 10-gallon tank. You can have a sponge filter in there. You can have a hang-on back filter. You just turn the current down real low. I had just bare minimum plants, just a little bit of Java moss, had some water sprite in there, and actually now in retrospect, I would just have water sprite or some sort of floating plant, which will help give them a little bit of shade. And of course have a light and a heater on it. Now I kept the heat for the fry tank at 79 degrees. And the reason being is because they will grow, they can tolerate that heat, and they will actually grow faster. They will hatch out sooner. Most places on the internet that you will read about hatching time for Corydoras eggs, for bronze ones in particular, it will tell you somewhere between 3 to 7 days. I can tell you this, they hatched on the 3rd day for us at this temperature. So I would highly recommend you do that. The other thing that of importance is that if you've collected them into a small plastic cup or container, what I would do to have maximum success, don't leave them in the container, the eggs. Actually just dump them right onto the bottom of the tank floor. What happens is it will give them more current and more flow. You can try putting a bubble stone inside of the little container, which I tried to do. It didn't really improve the survival rate for the eggs. They need to have water flow on them to help prevent fungus from happening, because as you'll see, the eggs that are fertile are kind of a darker brown color, and the eggs that are no good, that are fungused over, are white. To the naked eye you can see it, and it's striking. And the problem is the fungus can spread to other eggs. So to maximize your survival rate, I would recommend just putting them right on the bare bottom. One of the biggest concerns we had once the Corys actually laid the eggs was not only collecting them, because that was trouble in itself, but once we did collect them, okay, so how are we going to keep them from fungusing over? There's a product called methylene blue, which maybe some of you have heard of. It's basically like a really thick ink-like substance, and it's supposed to be antifungal. However, you must be warned, methylene blue will stain anything in your tank a dark blue color. For example, I had a rock that I put in the tank, and I bought the, methylene blue thinking, oh, I'll just, put a little bit in. I just put a capful in, and it completely dyed everything in the tank blue, including the rock, and it ruined the water sprite that was in there the 2nd time around. 3rd time around, we got it right. I decided, don't even try the blue. Let's go all natural. Let's use catappa leaves. Indian almond leaves. They release tannins such as just like driftwood does. It's essentially like putting a giant tea bag in your tank. It has the tannins have antifungal and antibacterial properties to them. They lower the pH of the water a bit, which helps to keep the bacteria and the fungus from thriving, and you're going to have a much better survival rate, first off. Second off, as you can see, a catappa leaf offers a large area, especially if you have big leaves. It offers a large surface area for the spawn to hide under, to give them some shade, but also to help them feel secure. Now this is just going to be a tank with nothing but the fry in it and snails, so there's no predators to have to worry about, but still they have instincts where they want to school together and feel safe, and this will help keep them less stressed out. After the Corys spawn have hatched, they will consume their egg yolk for the first couple of days, and they're incredibly tiny, incredibly small. They look like little tiny tadpoles, but you can definitely see a lot of their facial features, which is really cool. After they've consumed their yolk, they're going to be looking for food, and so one of the things that we've had a lot of luck with was giving them kind of like a 3-fold blend of different foods throughout the day. Try to feed them 3 times a day daily when doing a daily water change as well. With the food, we used crushed high quality flakes, like crushed, real tiny. Aquarium Co-op brand small fish / fry food, which comes in a little squirt bottle, and Hikari baby brine shrimp frozen food. So we alternate between the 3 foods every day, and we do a water change every day on the tank as well. Now for the first few days, I would recommend using a fry food only. The reason being is because even though you have these other foods that they can eat at this stage in their life, they're just too small. Their mouths are so small that they probably will have trouble eating that. And they'll also eat some other stuff, little microbacterias and stuff you can't see with the naked eye inside the tank, which is another reason why those catappa leaves are so nice, is because as those things start to break down, they get that layer of biofilm on them. They can eat off of that, and they can kind of, as it breaks down, they can just eat the little bits of the leaves as well. So There's a variety of things that you can, feed them, but they need to get bigger first. So start small, just like they are, and then kind of build on that. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you. I really appreciate it. I want to encourage you to try these methods in raising bronze Cory fry. The main points to take away from this video: breeding triggers. You want to use frozen or live foods and do a cool water change. That will trigger the breeding behaviors of the parents. Next, you want to harvest the eggs. Use your hands rather than tools like razors or credit cards to take them off of the glass or off of plants. If they happen to have laid them on plant leaves, go right ahead and cut the leaf off. Cory eggs are tougher than they look. Fry tank. Make sure that you have a dedicated tank to raising the fry. You want a bare bottom. You want to keep the temperature up about high 70s. You can have a sponge filter in it or a hang-on back filter set to a very low current. The only tank mates you want in the tank will be small snails like ram's horn or trumpet snails. A floating plant will do nicely, such as water sprite. You absolutely want to use catappa leaves. They will help with the success rate, keeping the fungus and bacteria away from them, while also maintaining a area for the fry to hide under, and it will also grow microbes and such that they can eat. Speaking of eating, the next step is feeding. You want to use small food, crushed, even pre-soaked flakes, fry food only, and frozen food such as baby brine shrimp from Hikari. You want to start doing this on the second day after they've hatched because they will consume their yolk in the first couple. Feed them 2 to 3 times a day, do a daily water change, and make sure you keep the height of the tank of the water low, meaning you don't want it all 10 gallons if you're using a 10 gallon. You want to keep it about half as much, so about 5 gallons. You only want about 4 or 5 inches or so of water. They need to be able to make it to the surface to breathe occasionally. Once they are about an inch in size, they can rejoin the parents. Remember, if it's small enough to fit in a fish's mouth, it can be eaten. No exceptions. Hey everyone, this is PRJ since 1990. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you liked what you saw, please give the video a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to my channel for more good stuff. Leave a comment below on this video and let me know your thoughts. Also, let me know what you'd like to see next. Last but not least, I'm on Patreon as well. Have a great day. God bless you. Thanks for watching.